In 48 hours, she would lose her apartment. In 24 hours, the hotel would lose $200 million. In 2 hours, her boss would humiliate himself in front of a Saudi billionaire. But in the next 60 seconds, a janitor with a secret was about to break every rule of invisibility. This is the story of what happens when the smartest person in the room is the one nobody's looking at. Welcome to the story room. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. Have you ever been completely invisible while standing right in front of someone? Let me tell you about a woman named Diana Foster. She was 31 years old, working as a janitor at the premier Royal Hotel in Dubai. Every day, she mopped floors that cost more per square foot than most people's homes. She cleaned bathrooms made of Italian marble. She emptied trash bins for people who earned in an hour what she made in a month. But here's what nobody knew. Diana had a PhD in Middle Eastern Studies from Oxford University. She spoke fluent Arabic, Persian, and Turkish. She'd written her doctoral thesis on cross-cultural business negotiations in the Gulf region. And right now, she was about to witness the biggest disaster in the hotel's history. The premier Royal Hotel wasn't just any hotel. It was a symbol of luxury in Dubai's competitive hospitality market. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings 3 stories high. Gold leaf decorated every surface. Guests arrived in Rolls-Royces and private helicopters. Today was the most important day in the hotel's 20-year history. Mr. Khalid Al Rashid was coming. A Saudi billionaire whose family owned oil fields, shipping companies, and half the luxury hotels in the Middle East. His investment could make the premier Royal the crown jewel of Dubai's hotel scene. Or his rejection could destroy it. The hotel's general manager was a man named Victor Brennan. He was 53 years old, British, and had spent his entire career climbing the hospitality ladder. This meeting with Mr. Al Rashid was supposed to be his masterpiece. His final achievement before retirement. Victor stood in the marble lobby at exactly 3 p.m., surrounded by his executive team. Everyone wore their most expensive suits. Everyone had rehearsed their smiles. Everything was perfect, except for one tiny problem. When Mr. Al Rashid walked through the golden doors with his entourage of 12 advisors, he began speaking in rapid Arabic. His tone was formal. His questions were specific. His expectations were clear. And Victor Brennan understood exactly none of it. "Welcome, Mr. Al Rashid," Victor said in English, extending his hand with a confident smile. "We are absolutely delighted to host you today." Mr. Al Rashid responded in Arabic, a long, flowing sentence that seemed to ask several questions at once. Victor's smile froze. Sweat began forming on his forehead despite the aggressive air conditioning. He fumbled for his phone, opening a translation app with shaking fingers. He spoke into it slowly. "Could you please repeat that in English?" The app's robotic voice butchered the Arabic so badly that one of Al Rashid's advisors actually winced. Mr. Al Rashid's expression changed. Not to anger, to something worse. Disappointment. He turned to his chief advisor and said something in Arabic. The advisor nodded gravely. Victor didn't need a translation to understand the meaning. This was already going wrong. Behind them, unnoticed by everyone in the lobby, Diana pushed her cleaning cart quietly along the wall. She wore her gray uniform. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She kept her eyes down, as invisible as furniture. But her ears were wide open. She heard every word Mr. Al Rashid said in Arabic. She understood his questions about the hotel's financial structure. She caught his concerns about cultural sensitivity in their operations. She noted his specific inquiry about the hotel's approach to serving Middle Eastern guests. And she heard Victor's pathetic attempts to use a phone app to communicate with a man who controlled billions of dollars. Diana's hands tightened on her cleaning cart. For years ago, she'd returned from Oxford with dreams of working in international business. She'd applied to 400 jobs. She'd been to 89 interviews. 0 offers. "You're overqualified," they said. "You don't have practical experience," they explained. "We're looking for someone who fits our company culture," they suggested, which usually meant someone who didn't have a darker skin tone or a woman's voice. Her student loans had come due. Her savings had run out. The Premier Royal had been hiring janitors. It was supposed to be temporary. That was 4 years ago. Now, watching Victor destroy the most important meeting in the hotel's history, Diana felt something crack open inside her chest. A voice she'd been silencing for 4 years suddenly became impossible to ignore. Not your problem, the careful part of her brain warned. You're just a janitor. Stay invisible. Stay safe. But another voice, the one that had carried her through doctoral research and language immersion and years of academic struggle, whispered something different. What if this is your moment? The meeting moved to the executive conference room. Victor led Mr. Al-Rashid and his 12 advisors through the hotel like a nervous tour guide, chattering in English about features nobody could understand. Diana followed at a distance, pushing her cart. She was supposed to be cleaning the executive floor. Nobody questioned her presence. Janitors were supposed to be invisible. Inside the conference room, the disaster continued. Victor had prepared an elaborate presentation. 60 slides. Market analysis. Revenue projections. Investment opportunities. All in English. Mr. Al-Rashid sat at the head of the conference table, his face a mask of professional politeness that barely concealed his growing frustration. His advisors whispered among themselves in Arabic. Perhaps, Mr. Al-Rashid said in heavily accented English, we discuss specific matters. Tax structure for foreign investor. Regulation for property expansion. These technical details are important. Victor nodded eagerly. Absolutely, Mr. Al-Rashid. Let me pull up our financial overview. No, Mr. Al-Rashid interrupted gently. Specific questions. New Dubai law about mixed-use development. How this affect hotel expansion? Victor blinked. He glanced at his financial director, who shrugged helplessly. We can certainly get that information for you, Victor stammered. Perhaps we could schedule a follow-up meeting with our legal team? Mr. Al-Rashid's expression hardened just slightly. He turned to his chief advisor and spoke rapidly in Arabic. Diana, standing just outside the conference room, pretending to dust the same picture frame for the third time, understood every word. He has no idea what I'm talking about, Mr. Al-Rashid said in Arabic. This man wants our money, but hasn't bothered to understand our requirements. This is disrespectful. The chief advisor responded. Shall we proceed to the Atlantis Hotel? They have Arabic-speaking staff waiting. Give him 5 more minutes, Mr. Al-Rashid replied. But I suspect this is a waste of our time. Inside the room, Victor was frantically typing on his phone, trying to get the translation app to work properly. Mr. Al-Rashid, he said, his voice strained, I apologize for the delay. Our legal team is preparing a comprehensive response to your questions about. He trailed off, realizing he didn't actually know what the questions were. Mr. Al-Rashid stood up slowly. His 12 advisors immediately began closing their briefcases. Mr. Brennan, he said in English, his voice formal and final. I appreciate your hospitality, but Premier Royal Hotel is perhaps not ready for international partnership. We have other meetings today. Victor's face went white. 20 years of career building. His retirement legacy. His reputation. Everything was crumbling in real time. Please, Victor said, desperation creeping into his voice. Give us one more chance. I can have translators here within the hour. An hour? Mr. Al-Rashid said quietly. My time is valuable, Mr. Brennan. If you cannot communicate now, why would I trust you to communicate in a business partnership? It was over. Victor knew it. His executive team knew it. Mr. Al-Rashid's advisors were already heading toward the door. And that's when Diana made her decision. She set down her cleaning supplies. She smoothed her gray janitor's uniform. She took a deep breath. And she walked into the conference room. Excuse me, Diana said clearly. Every head turned. The executives looked confused. Mr. Al-Rashid's advisors looked surprised. Victor's expression went from desperation to anger. Not now, Victor hissed. We're in the middle of. Diana ignored him completely. She turned to Mr. Al-Rashid and spoke in perfect, formal Arabic. Respected Mr. Al-Rashid, I apologize for the interruption. My name is Diana Foster. I couldn't help but overhear your questions about Dubai's new mixed-use development regulations. Perhaps I could offer some assistance. The room went completely silent. Mr. Al-Rashid's eyebrows shot up in genuine surprise. He studied Diana for a long moment, taking in her uniform, her confident posture, her flawless Arabic. Then he responded in rapid, complex Arabic, clearly testing her. Your Arabic is excellent, he said. But can you explain the specific zoning changes that affect hotel properties in the Dubai International Financial District? Without hesitation, Diana launched into a detailed explanation. She cited the exact regulatory codes. She compared them to similar laws in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. She discussed the tax implications for foreign investors. As she spoke, Mr. Al-Rashid's expression transformed from skepticism to astonishment. Victor stood frozen, watching a conversation he couldn't understand but could clearly see was going incredibly well. The chief advisor leaned forward, taking notes. The other advisors stopped packing their briefcases. Diana continued, addressing Mr. Al-Rashid's earlier concerns about cultural sensitivity. The Premier Royal currently lacks dedicated prayer facilities and halal-certified food services, she said honestly in Arabic. These are significant oversights for a hotel-seeking Middle Eastern investment. However, the building structure would allow for these additions on the ground floor, and the kitchen could be certified within 3 months. Mr. Al-Rashid actually smiled. Who are you? He asked in Arabic. And why is someone with your knowledge working as? He gestured at her uniform, the question hanging unfinished. Victor finally found his voice. What's going on? What are you saying to him? Diana turned to Victor and switched to English. Mr. Al-Rashid has specific questions about regulatory compliance and cultural accommodations. I'm providing answers. You speak Arabic? Victor sputtered.
How? When?
Why didn't you? It was on my resume, Diana said simply. Page 2. Along with my PhD in Middle Eastern Studies from Oxford University. The room erupted in whispers. Victor's face went through several shades of red and white. You have a PhD? From Oxford? And you're working in housekeeping? I needed a job, Diana replied. You were hiring. Mr. Al-Rashid watched this exchange with fascination. He turned to Victor and spoke in English, his accent thick but clear. Mr. Brennan, you have genius working in your hotel, cleaning floors, and you don't know this? The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Victor opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. Mr. Al-Rashid continued, in my company, we have programs to find talent, to use people's skills. This woman, he gestured to Diana, should be leading your international relations, not cleaning toilets. One of the executives whispered to another. Did you know about this? How could we know? The other responded. She's a janitor. With a PhD, the first one said. From Oxford. Diana stood calmly in the center of the chaos, her gray uniform suddenly seeming less like a uniform and more like a disguise that had finally been removed. Mr. Al-Rashid addressed Diana directly in Arabic. Miss Foster, would you be willing to continue this discussion? I have many questions, and you're the first person in this hotel who actually understands what I'm asking. I would be honored, Diana replied in Arabic. Victor stepped forward, his brain finally catching up to the situation. Yes, of course. Diana, please join us at the table. He pulled out a chair, his hands shaking slightly. For the next hour, Diana and Mr. Al-Rashid had an intense, detailed conversation about international investment strategies, cultural business practices, and regulatory compliance. She explained Dubai's new foreign investment incentives. She discussed Middle Eastern hospitality expectations. She analyzed the Premier Royal's strengths and weaknesses from a cross-cultural perspective. Mr. Al-Rashid's advisors took pages of notes. Victor and his executive team sat in stunned silence, understanding nothing but watching their salvation unfold in a language they couldn't speak. At one point, Mr. Al-Rashid asked Diana about her background. She explained her years at Oxford, her research on Gulf business practices, her 5 years living in Cairo and Riyadh during her studies. And then, Mr. Al-Rashid asked, after all this education and experience, you came back to... To 400 rejection letters, Diana finished honestly. To being told I was overqualified or underexperienced or simply not the right fit. To student loans I couldn't pay. To this job, which was the only one I could get. Mr. Al-Rashid shook his head in disbelief. This is a crime. Not a legal crime, but a crime against intelligence. Against potential. He pulled out a business card. Not a regular card, but a heavy black card with gold Arabic calligraphy. This is my private contact, he said in English, presenting it with both hands in the traditional gesture of respect. My company is always looking for people who understand both Western and Middle Eastern business. If you are interested, I would personally review your application. Diana accepted the card with appropriate reverence. Thank you, Mr. Al-Rashid. That means more than you know. Victor, watching this exchange, suddenly understood that he was about to lose the person who had just saved his career. Diana, he said urgently, we need to talk. About your position here. About your future with the Premier Royal. Mr. Al-Rashid smiled. Yes, Mr. Brennan. I think you do need to talk. Because if you don't value this woman, I will. Before the story continues, subscribe. These stories are written to change lives. 2 months later, Diana stood in her new office on the executive floor of the Premier Royal Hotel. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Dubai skyline. A traditional Arabic coffee set sat on her desk next to her laptop. Her framed PhD diploma hung on the wall beside a letter confirming the Al-Rashid Group's $200 million investment in the hotel. Her title, Director of International and Cultural Relations. Her salary, enough to pay off her student loans and actually save money for the first time in years. Her uniform, tailored business suits in professional colors. But more important than any of that was what she'd begun to build. The Premier Royal's first ever Hidden Brilliance initiative. Diana stood before 60 hotel employees in the main conference room. Housekeepers, dishwashers, maintenance workers, valets, and kitchen staff. Each person had been personally invited based on a confidential survey. Welcome, Diana began. Each of you is here because you indicated on our survey that you have skills, education, or abilities not currently used in your job. On the screen behind her appeared a simple slide. Every person is more than their uniform. 2 months ago, Diana continued, I was pushing a cleaning cart outside this very room. I had a PhD from Oxford. I spoke 4 languages. I had specialized knowledge worth millions to this company. And nobody knew because nobody asked. She clicked to the next slide showing survey results. 53% spoke at least one additional language, 47% had university degrees, 68% had specialized skills, or training, 92% felt their full potential was invisible. This isn't just my story, Diana said. It's our story. And starting today, we're going to change it. Over the next hour, Diana outlined the new program. Language skills would be identified and compensated. Education would be recognized and utilized. Hidden talents would be actively sought and developed. A dishwasher revealed he was a certified accountant from Syria, unable to get his credentials recognized in the UAE. He was transferred to the finance department. A housekeeper shared that she had a degree in interior design. She joined the hotel's renovation planning team. A maintenance worker disclosed his engineering background. He became part of the facility's management leadership. Each revelation brought gasps from the room. These invisible people were finally being seen. Victor, standing at the back, watched with a mixture of pride and shame. Pride at what Diana had created. Shame that it had taken a near disaster to open his eyes. After the meeting, Diana stood by the window, watching the sun set over Dubai's impossible skyline. Victor approached quietly. What you've built here, he said. It's remarkable. It's necessary, Diana corrected gently. How many companies are throwing away brilliance because they only see uniforms? Victor nodded. I've been thinking about that a lot. About my blindness. About all the assumptions I made. It's not just you, Diana said. It's the whole system. We've created a world where credentials matter more than capability, where visibility matters more than value, where speaking the right way or looking the right Weight determines who gets seen and who stays invisible. She turned from the window to face him. But we're changing that. One person at a time. One hidden talent at a time. 3 months later, Mr. Al-Rashid returned to the Premier Royal for the official investment signing ceremony. The hotel had been transformed. Prayer rooms on every floor. Halal-certified kitchens. Arabic-speaking staff at every station. Cultural sensitivity training for all employees. But more than that, the invisible people had become visible. The former dishwasher now managed the hotel's financial audits. The former housekeeper had redesigned the luxury suites with authentic Middle Eastern aesthetics. The former maintenance worker had revolutionized the building's energy efficiency. At the signing ceremony, Mr. Al-Rashid addressed the assembled staff and media. "When I first visited Premier Royal," he said, "I almost walked away. But one person's courage changed everything. Not just for this hotel, but for everyone who works here." He gestured to Diana, who stood beside him in a professional abaya and blazer. "Miss Foster showed me that true luxury isn't in gold fixtures or marble floors. It's in recognizing the worth of every human being, in seeing the genius that others overlook." The audience applauded. Cameras flashed. But Diana was looking at the employees standing in the back. The housekeepers and janitors and dishwashers who were still waiting for their moment to be seen. Her work wasn't finished. It had just begun. 1 year later, the Premier Royal Hotel's Hidden Brilliance Initiative had become international news. Harvard Business School wrote a case study. Hotels across Dubai began implementing similar programs. The concept spread to other industries. Diana stood on a stage at a TEDx conference in Dubai, sharing her story with 2,000 people. "Invisibility isn't an accident," she said. "It's a choice we make every day. When we see a janitor, we choose to see only the mop. When we see a dishwasher, we choose to see only the dishes. We choose to believe that the uniform defines the person." She paused, letting the words sink in. But what if we chose differently? What if we chose to see the whole person? The education they earned, the languages they speak, the dreams they carry, the brilliance they hide because the world has taught them to stay invisible. The audience was silent, captivated. "My story isn't special," Diana continued. "There are millions of people working jobs that don't use their full potential. Driving taxis with engineering degrees. Cleaning houses with teaching credentials. Serving food with advanced language skills. Not because they're lazy or incompetent, but because systems are broken. Because opportunity is unevenly distributed. Because visibility is a privilege, not a right." She looked directly at the camera broadcasting her talk worldwide. "So, here's my challenge to you. Go back to your company, your organization, your community, and ask yourself, who is invisible? Who have I been overlooking? Whose brilliance am I missing because I only see their uniform? Then do something about it. Because the person you're ignoring might be the genius who saves your career, or changes your industry, or transforms your world. All they need is for someone to finally see them." The audience rose in a standing ovation. After the talk, Diana returned to her hotel. She walked through the lobby greeting staff by name. The doorman who spoke 5 languages. The front desk clerk with a master's in psychology. The security guard, who was a published poet.
She knew all of them.
Their full stories. Their complete selves. In her office, she found a handwritten letter on her desk. It was from a young woman in India who had seen Diana's TEDx talk. "Dear Miss Foster," it read, "I am a hotel housekeeper in Mumbai with a degree in computer science. For 3 years, I have felt invisible. Your story gave me courage. Today, I spoke to my manager about my skills. Tomorrow, they are creating a new IT position for me. You changed my life without ever meeting me. Thank you for showing me that being invisible is a choice, and I can choose differently." Diana folded the letter carefully, her eyes wet. One person, one choice, one moment of courage. That's all it took to change a life. And if enough people made that choice, they could change the world. The message. This story isn't fiction. It's happening right now in every city, every company, every community. There are geniuses cleaning your office. There are experts serving your food. There are brilliant minds driving your taxi. They're invisible not because they lack value, but because we've stopped looking. The question is, will you be the person who finally sees them? If this story moved you, subscribe and hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Because everyone deserves to be seen for who they really are, not just what their uniform says. The Story Room, where every invisible story finally gets seen.